The Terrifying Lies Podcast, with music and stories by Craig Nybo. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Terrifying Lies Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Nybo. You've come back, and that means the world to me. Thanks for sticking with me through the weird, the wild, and the downright eerie. This show wouldn't be what it is without you. If you want to keep the stories flowing and the music playing, consider backing the podcast at Patreon. A small monthly donation gets you early access to every episode. No ads, no commentary. Just the raw tales and music. You'll also get the songs featured on the show. But enough of that. Let's get to the story. Today's tale is part 3 of an epic. If you're just tuning in, you might feel like you've walked into a movie halfway through. I recommend you go back to the beginning. Trust me, it's worth it. Music runs through my veins, and it runs through this story and most of the stories that I write. You'll hear about a band called Funk Toast in today's episode. That is no fiction. Funk Toast was a real band that I played in back in the 90s. The story pulls a little bit from my past. I'll let you know what's real and what's made up. But come on, Ice Beetle aliens on a mission to save their kind? That's 99.99999% fiction with a splash of musical memory. So far, we followed a skeleton crew of Ice Beetles from planet Hull. They're on a secret mission to find help in their war against the Voles. Their plan? Salvage an ancient Earth vessel buried deep in the jungle and launch into space to beg for allies. Will they succeed? Will they save their race? Well, you'll have to listen to find out. I'll see you on the other side. The Earth vessel cut its unguided path through outer space. The quintet of Ice Beetles sat on the bridge. They hadn't exchanged many words since leaving Hull. They'd left their home planet. Now what? Chi stood up from his seat and looked through the reinforced glass into the expanse of space. He stood that way for a long moment, his rakes hanging to his sides. Then he turned to the rest of the crew.
While we drift through space, our people suffer. They'll be preparing to move the colony into the wastelands now.
The others looked at the floor, some shaking their heads in sympathy.
We've been saddled with a monumental task. If we fail, our people will die. It might not happen today, but it will happen. Winkle, can you give us any indication on where the ship is taking us?
Winkle stood from his seat and raised a rake in a scholarly gesture.
This is an exploratory vessel. Without getting overly technical, it has extremely effective sensors that can read atmospheric information about planets light years away. It's built to lock onto planets suitable to support life and to set coordinates automatically. Such coordinates, of course, can be overridden manually.
So where are we going?
She asked.
Not sure,
Winkle said.
Some potentially habitable planet somewhere out there, unless I change the coordinates. Once you decide where to send us, I can confirm the course and engage the ship's negative mass drives.
Negative mass is real?
Stig asked, raising a rake in surprise.
I thought that was all just theory.
I've studied the ship for years, as did Abstel, my predecessor. Somehow, the people of Earth were able to acquire exotic matter that allows this ship to expand and contract space.
So we could reach superluminal speed?
Stig asked.
Technically, no. We don't travel at speed in the traditional sense. We travel by bending space-time.
The two of you can talk theory all you want later.
She interrupted the mechanic and scientist.
Right now we need answers. We need to figure out how we can spread a message across the universe that the Ice Beetles of Hull are near extinction.
I suggest we access the ship's historical records.
Winkle said.
Perhaps this alien species might know something that can help us.
Excellent.
She said.
In the meantime, Stig and Nasher, I want you to explore the ship, find anything that might be of use, and report back.
She turned to Gorn.
As for you, Gorn, you've suffered injuries. See if you can find compatible medical supplies.
Gorn nodded. After the three crewmen left the bridge, Chi turned to Winkle.
Level with me. Do you think there's any hope of getting help back to Hull?
Winkle swiveled around in his chair and looked up at Chi, issuing that twinkling smile that only Winkle was capable of.
There's always hope. I usually find the answers I need in the data, and there are copious amounts of data in these computers.
Well, get to it. Let me know when you have something to report. I'm gonna get to know this vessel myself.
Winkle turned from his commander and went to work, tapping on buttons, rolling trackballs, accessing the vast database of information available at his spicule tips. Chi sat in his quarters, a room outfitted with a soft nesting area, storage shelves, and personal access to the ship's computer system. He had tried to use the computer, but the Earth language had no semblance at all to anything Chi could understand. He had to be content lying on the odd nesting cube and playing with the decor and tools he found in the room to help pass the time. Chi's compod squelched.
Sir, I believe I found something of interest.
Winkle said.
I'll be right there.
Chi said into his compod. Chi and Winkle sat in command chairs on the bridge. Winkle worked the buttons on the main console. The big screen blinked from transparent mode to video mode. A series of moving pictures appeared. It was like the screen had turned into a window to another world. Foreign creatures in an almost incomprehensible environment moved and interacted on the screen. The Earth technology baffled Chi. How could a breed of creatures become so intelligent to invent such wonders? A windy voice spoke in the Earth language.
It's called a newsreel,
Winkle said.
The Earth creatures diligently log their history on a day-to-day basis using what they call television cameras.
Winkle caught the consternation in Chi's eye and tapped on a series of keys.
I apologize for the inconvenience. I forgot that you haven't spent much time with the humans.
Humans?
That's what they call themselves.
Winkle continued tapping on buttons and rolling trackballs. A series of indiscernible symbols appeared on the big screen over the newsreel. The sound became abstracted, as if it flowed through a long tube.
Although we do not possess the anatomy to speak the human language, I've become adept at understanding their words. I've written a translation protocol into the computer.
Winkle kept clicking buttons. The sound of the newsreel began to clean up. Chi snatched a few words in the Ice Beetle language in the mire of human babble. Piece by piece, the computer recognized the speech patterns of the video feed and translated them into something Chi could understand.
That's amazing,
Chi said.
Nisheng only sent his best. What can I say? Now, what do you say we watch this newsreel again?
Winkle pressed a button. The newsreel backed to the beginning and replayed. A few Earth symbols appeared on the screen. A rhythmic noise punched the background. Chi's face crunched up in confusion.
It's called music,
Winkle said.
It was important to humans.
Chi kept his eyes on the newsreel. The windy human voice came over the audio feed. Winkle's translation program went to work.
There are rumors around that this is Britain's revenge for the Boston Tea Party.
The voice said as an enormous aircraft came to a stop in an odd, boxy world.
3,000 screaming teenagers are at New York's Kennedy Airport to greet, you guessed it, the Beatles. This rock and roll group is taken over as the kingpins of musical appreciation among the younger element. 4
humans came out of the air vessel and looked across the symmetrical topography at thousands of other humans who seemed in the act of worship. She watched in wonder. Could the humans truly have gods who walked among them? The newsreel went on.
Some musical critics call their harmony unmistakably diatonic. Others say it's pan-diatonic. Parents say it's just pandemonium. Their first meeting with the American press springs forth an interview laced with quips and humor.
The group of 4 humans, known as the Beatles, stood before another throng of humans. A series of flashes went off as the Beatles laughed and smiled for their zealots. Such odd jocularity, she thought, unbecoming of gods.
You'd laugh too with a gross of over $17 million last year.
The newsreel cut to an outside environment. Boxy structures hulked over a central path, treated with a hardening agent. Humans dressed in military uniforms stood in the scene.
New York City cops are hard-pressed in protecting the Beatles at their hotel. On every side, there's hero worship that recalls the heydays of Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra.
The human militants escorted the Beatles into a wagon transport. Finally, the newsreel ended in a place with trees, foliage, and clear sky, more like Hull. 3 of the Beatles stood together on a giant boulder, displaying the same jocularity that seemed characteristic of them.
With one Beatle vetted with a sore throat, 3 of the quartet take an airing in Central Park. There's absolutely no truth to the rumor that the zoo's laughing hyena was driven underground.
The newsreel ended. Chi sat in silence as the screen went milky, then transparent, revealing space. Winkle smiled and waited for Chi to say something. Chi rotated in his chair to face Winkle, his eye bones fixed with uncertainty.
How is it that gods walk among humans?
They're not gods,
Winkle said.
Then what are they? Their zealots treat them as gods?
They're more like heroes than gods.
In what battle?
They're not soldiers.
Winkle said.
How can they be heroes and not soldiers?
She asked.
Earthlings put a high priority on something they called entertainment. The Beatles offer a form of entertainment called rock and roll music.
Like a chanter vigil?
She asked, raising one eyebone. Chi had attended many chanter vigils at which groups of chanters like Gorn enlightened crowds of Ice Beetles with choreographed flight and harmonic tocsins, all punched with chemical light from their abdomens.
There are similarities,
Winkle said.
but human rock and roll has very little to do with worship.
So what is the purpose of rock and roll?
Rock and roll exists solely for the pleasure of Earth beings, but it has a tremendous impact on them. According to my research, the Beatles changed Earth. They taught peace, love, light, and goodness in their music, and the people listened. There are nearly 7 billion Earth beings on the planet, and the Beatles' message reached nearly all of them.
Chi rocked back in his chair and considered everything Winkle was saying. General Nishang had commanded Chi and his little company to put out a signal of some kind into the universe, a search for help, to save a dying race on a distant planet. Until now, he hadn't known remotely how to approach this order.
When was this newsreel created?
She asked.
The year 1964 by Earth's time reckoning. Long ago, but historical records indicate that similar patterns have occurred. Since the time of the Beatles, Earth bands have struck out into the universe and made a tremendous impact.
Winkle touched a few buttons on the control panel and used a trackball to scroll through a series of photographs. Each photograph depicted a group of 3 or 4 Earth beings. In many of the pictures, the humans held technical devices.
Are they armed?
She asked.
Those are called musical instruments. Human entertainment groups use them to produce rhythmic and tonal sounds that please their followers.
Winkle rolled a fresh photograph onto the big screen.
This is a group that calls themselves Sloop King and the Underdogs.
6 Earth beings stood in various stances in the photograph, some of them holding technical devices. The beings seemed to be in attitudes of aggression, baring their teeth, wearing dark covers over their eyes.
They're famous across the universe,
Winkle said.
Many races have heard the warrior-like message of Sloop King.
Winkle advanced the slide again. Another human group appeared on screen. They wore bright clothing. The apparent leader of the group held an awkward-looking device fixed with a series of metal and pearl buttons. He bared his teeth at the camera. The rest of his cohort stood behind him.
This is Captain Fishman and the Authority. Earth beings have, for some reason, subcategorized rock and roll music. This group, called a band, plays what is called ska music, a derivative of raga.
Fascinating,
Chi said.
I found this band particularly interesting.
Winkle advanced the slide again. A picture of 8 Earth creatures flashed up on screen. Some of them held wired devices like in the other photos. Some of them held metal devices. winding chrome tubes fixed with buttons or slides.
This band calls themselves Funk Toast. I find it interesting that the people of Earth have largely rejected their sound, but Funk Toast found fame off-world. They've become quite popular on many planets.
Call the others,
Chi said.
We need a staff meeting immediately.
Winkle smiled and unclipped a comm pod from the console. The comm pod accessed speakers throughout the USS Arlington. He asked for all hands to assemble at the bridge on the orders of Colonel Chi. The Ice Beetles assembled on the bridge of the USS Arlington. Chi saw loss in their faces. They'd been drifting through space with no idea how they could deploy their commander's orders. The state of purposeless had cost much in the way of the currency of morale. But for the first moment since leaving Hull, Chi felt he had at least something, a modus by which to operate, implausible as it seemed. His only worry was, how would his thin idea come across to the rest of the company?
My friends, as per our orders, I know you're at loss, as am I, to be frank, on exactly how we should proceed.
Nasher ticked the spicules on one rake against his outer shell, creating a drumming sound.
While you've gone about your orders, I have taken up counsel with Winkle. He's privy to the culture and language of Earth beings, humans as they call themselves. He's found information on the ship's archives that I think is significant. I feel that by drawing on cultures foreign to ours, we might find a clue as to how we can reach out across the universe for aid.
Chi indicated for Winkle to take the room and stood back, folding his top two pairs of rakes over his chest. Winkle stood up from his command chair.
As I have combed through Earth's historical records, I have discovered that there are ways to reach mass quantities of beings across language and culture with a simple message. I'm about to show you what is called a newsreel. This reel deals with 4 human beings and their stature among humans. Please direct your attention to the screen.
Everyone looked up at the observation window. Winkle pressed a button, the window filmed over, and the newsreel commenced. First, the small company of Ice Beetles couldn't make anything out of the human language. Then, Winkle's translation protocol kicked in, transforming the narrative to the Ice Beetles' tongue. The newsreel began again with the Beetles debarking from an enormous Earth vessel. A voluminous crowd had assembled to pay homage. Stig raised an eyebone when the narrator identified the quartet of humans as the Beetles. He wondered why they had selected such a moniker when they possessed no similarities to insects. When the reel ended, the Ice Beetles sat in silence for a long beat. None of them had ever seen any evidence of alien life forms, even though their scientific and religious beliefs openly proclaimed the existence of creatures from other planets. Even though they had spent a good amount of time burying the human dead, they hadn't imagined the creatures actually breathing and functioning. And yet Winkle's newsreel had shown them as an intelligent populace, advanced and thriving. Chi walked to the center of the bridge where he could look each of his small company in the eye.
It seemed that this quartet of humans enjoyed a profound form of popularity. They began in one region and eventually spread their message of hope, love, and peace across a planet, with a population of billions, to every region, to every sect and science. And now, according to updated records, their message has transcended Earth and gone to the stars. Although the 4 Earthmen have long since passed, their message has become immortal.
Their kind worships them as gods,
Stig said.
The Beetles were not gods, although they enjoyed a godlike status. They were what Earth creatures refer to as entertainers. Musicians, to be precise.
What are entertainers?
Gorn asked.
Entertainers concern themselves with filling the senses of their audiences with what they refer to as art. Some is visual, some stimulates the sense of hearing.
It all seems so trivial.
Nasher said.
To make noise, no matter how stimulating, is only making noise. These Earth creatures put too much stock in pleasure and not enough into survival. Perhaps they've been unchallenged for too long.
It seemed that way to me as well,
Chi said.
But when I saw this...
Chi turned to Winkle. Winkle tapped on a few buttons. A second video feed appeared appeared on screen. The Beatles sat in single file on a long bench, holding their complicated apparatuses. The last of the Earthmen held a device that resembled a bumper shawl, something Ice Beetles used to keep the rain away while walking in storms. An odd thumping and mixture of tone and percussion infused. One of the Beatles, perhaps the leader of the group, began chanting out airy words in his indiscernible human language. The words lay into the rest of the tone and percussion to shape something organized, a unique sound that none of the Ice Beetles had ever experienced. Winkle's translation protocol took over. The five of them watched, wrapped on the screen, as the video commenced. Gorn perked up on her seat, drawn in by the unusual mixture of rhythm and words. Although the Beatles' sound didn't stimulate her senses as it would Earth beings, she appreciated the complex mixture of timing and pitch. Stig couldn't take his eyes away from the complicated devices used by the Beatles to create the sound. They looked like weapons, affixed with lengths of fiber strand or catgut, which the Earthmen plucked like bowstrings. The lengths of fiber strand had been adjusted to precise tensions in order to accurately create a variety of pitches. It also appeared that the devices could be used as bludgeoning weapons. Nasher realized as he watched the video feed that the Beatles held a great deal of power in their hands. With an audience of billions, virtually the entire populace of their home world, they could send out any signal they wanted, and the populace would react in kind. As he had watched Hull move away from them during takeoff, Nasher had thought he would never see his beloved home world again. He felt that General Nishang had made a mistake by sending his brightest and most resourceful talent to the stars. But if what she had said was true, if the message of hope posed by the Beatles had indeed transcended their world and reached the stars, perhaps the five of them had a chance of sending out a message requesting aid after all. If Nishang hadn't dispatched the present company, the genius of Winkle, the mechanical expertise of Stig, the leadership of Chi, and the tocsin of Gorn, their voyage would be doomed to failure. But as he watched the Beatles rattle off the last of their message, a glimmer of hope flowed into Nasher's hearts. In turn, Chi looked at each of his command in the face. He saw something new in their eyes, something he hadn't seen since leaving Hull. He saw a smattering of hope and resolve.
Here's what we're gonna do,
Chi said.
We are going to compose our own message that will request aid for a dying, war-ridden planet. Our race. We're going to send that message across the universe in a series of broadcasts.
Chi turned to Stig.
Your orders are to invent a collection of instruments that the rest of us can learn to play. Create them with the idea of stimulating the senses.
He turned to Gorn.
Your orders, as our chanter, are to compose a set of 10 songs. Songs are 3 to 5 minute lengths of rhythm, tone, and words. Humans call them music and lyrics. Once we have instruments and songs, it falls upon all of us to record our work and to learn to perform.
She turned to Winkle.
Falls to you to research performance venues and beings who can help us obtain audiences where we can convey our 10 songs. Do this tirelessly, for without a venue, all of our work falls to naught.
We should be called the Beatles,
Nasher said, pounding on a small table next to him.
I share your sentiment,
She said.
But you have to understand, the Beatles are a household name, not only on Earth, but across many galaxies. If we use their name, we will only be seen as opportunists, and our cause will fall to ruin.
So what should we call ourselves?
Stig asked. Winkle stood up from his console and raised one rake in a deductive fashion.
In researching the records of human entertainers, I have come to know their sentiments. Musical entertaining groups called rock bands generally share an open disdain for authority, for government, and otherwise. I've also come to know that they enjoy showing a lack of respect for their currency. This is only a ploy because the most successful Earth rock bands obtain enough currency to ensure the solvency of small countries. And yet, currency becomes a symbol of authoritative high-mindedness. They express disdain for the rich, even though they themselves are rich.
How is it that such creatures of obvious deception can obtain near godly status?
Nasher asked, shrugging his rakes.
It is an enigma.
Winkle said.
There isn't enough eternity to understand the motivation of the human species. Yet I propose that we draw our name from the very sentiments that are so prominent among humanity.
What name do you propose?
Gorn asked, her eyeballs arching upward.
To convey a disdain for both authority and for currency, I pose the name the Poison Nickels.
What are nickels?
Stig asked.
Nickels are a base currency. They're composed of 5 copper metal units known as pennies. There are 5 pennies in a nickel. There are 5 Ice Beetles in our rock and roll band, hence the Poison Nickels.
A long moment passed as the Ice Beetles rolled the name around in their minds. Some of them tried it out, pronouncing it carefully, slowly, trying to eke out its meaning.
It's perfect,
Nasher said. If Chi expected anyone to resist Winkle's suggestion, it would have been Nasher. But the warrior agreed and even showed a hint of excitement. As far as Chi was concerned, if Nasher agreed, then it should be inked. One by one, the other soldiers consented to the name. So on the bridge of an Earth vessel, far away from their home world of Hull, a small military detachment sent to the stars by the intrepid General Nishang of the Shreevers became the Poison Nickels. Thanks for listening. You're not just an audience, you're my friends. If you like what you heard, leave a review. Helps more than you know. Reviews and backer support are the lifeblood of this show. If you want to keep it going, at least leave a review, please. Even more, consider backing it at patreon.com/terrifyinglies. Until next time, I bid you sweet dreams. Or should I say, sweet nightmares. This has been the Terrifying Lies podcast. Please come again. You're welcome here.